This is a unique podcast exploring the criminal justice system and those involved and affected. We'll educate and expose the public as well as potential jurors to what takes place behind the scenes of those who are facing the system. Your host owns a litigation support firm called Justice Technology Professionals, and he works on criminal and civil cases offering support to defendants and counsel. What you're about to hear is an open dialogue, opening the minds to the public to what takes place in reality as opposed to what you think takes place. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Justice Tech Pros podcast. Here's your host, Dominick Crea.
Hello listeners, hope everybody's doing well today. Today we got a special episode. This is actually a rebuttal episode. As I always say, I allow any individuals who have been impacted by these lying informants to utilize my platform to give them a voice. I've been saying that since day one, and somebody reached out to me and wanted to do just that. This gentleman reached out to me. His name is Mr. Bill Fenton, and he was a topic of a show on John Pennisi's podcast. The name of the podcast was The First of Many Betrayals by Lucchese Underboss Patty Dellorusso, and it was posted November 22nd, 2001. So Mr. Fenton reached out to myself, and he wanted to come on and make a few things clear about that episode, as normally it was plagued with lies and falsities. So now we're going to hear the other side to that story. So without any further ado, I'm going to be bringing on Mr. Bill Fenton. Mr. Fenton, it's a pleasure to have you on today, sir. I just wanted to bring you on so you could have an opportunity to tell your side of the story that I mentioned. I actually did a little pre-record just setting the stage here, and now I just wanted to turn it over to you so you could say what you had to say.
Sure. Well, first, Dominic, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
I follow your Justice Tech Pros podcast along with the We Push Back and several of the other members of that We Push Back community. So,
great. Thank you.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I know that we spoke a year ago. I think not quite a year ago, but when this video from John Pennisi came out.
Yeah, I think it came back in November, so we spoke around that time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the date of that it was released, but yeah, and at that time, I think we spoke a little bit. I was going to potentially come on, but I decided, you know what? Let me just let this thing die. Sure. I'm not. It's not. I'm not a guy that likes to do interviews or going into some of these social media wormholes,
Totally understand.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm not that type of guy either, but man, it gets crazy.
Yeah. I've seen and heard a lot of stuff that you guys have had to deal with.
Yes.
But, but here recently, that video in particular, actually over the last couple of days, impacted me directly in a business deal that I was working on.
Gotcha.
So much so that an email was sent to me with that link from a private equity company.
I understand.
So when that happened, now I feel like I have to say something back, and it just, I've sat and I've listened, and a lot of the stories that John Pennisi has stated, I couldn't tell you one way or another, whether they're accurate, true, whatever. But the video that he made about me and decided to use my LinkedIn picture on.
Yeah, it's amazing how they could just do episodes on people, use their images, slander them, and defame them, and the government's okay with that.
I don't get it. And it's even more interesting because, and I'll get into it, but the things that were just blatantly untrue in that video, it's all documented, right.
Right.
So I guess I'll start with really how I met John, or when I met John. I met John, I think, in late 2017. It was either late 2017 or the beginning of 2016.
Gotcha.
And I've been in the telecommunications space for 24 years, operating all over the country. And myself and a private equity group bought a contracting company called Technology Solutions. And Technology Solutions had a couple offices in New York, one in Brooklyn and one in Queens. And we were doing work for residential installations, things like that. I won't mention the provider, but
sure.
And through that work, we started to get invited to bid on some construction contracts, building out the networks.
Gotcha.
So there was one in particular company that was brand new to the U.S. They had just bought a major cable provider there, and they were going to start doing a fiber to the home build. Well, one of the key components of that, from a contractor standpoint, is to have a safety person.
Okay.
I had all of the other positions that I needed, and I was the CEO of this company, and I sat on the board. And so anyway, I started looking for a safety manager, director. I think he said in the video he was a safety director. I couldn't tell you one way or the other. It's been so long ago, but anyway, he was actually the third guy that was approached. The first two guys, I know he insinuates in that meeting that I came to him and asked him. That's not how that happened.
And I mentioned, not to interrupt you, I apologize, but I just mentioned to the viewers the exact episode. So I recommend people listening, you go listen to that first, and then you could hear, the reality of the situation from Mr. Fenton directly.
Absolutely, yes. I would encourage everybody to do that. And it just gives a little context to this guy, So, but anyway, so I spoke to two other people, and the ranges of salary that they wanted, they were just outside of the budget for that position. Well outside of it.
Gotcha.
Well, in our acquisition of Technology Solutions, we also inherited a consulting contract. We had a consultant who's also mentioned in that video, Pat Dellorusso, and Pat had a contract with the previous owner, a consulting contract to help him get work and, all that kind of stuff. Gotcha. It's basically a business development contract. Well, since we inherited that contract, I started to get pretty friendly with Pat, and I went to him while I was out in New York, which I was out there every week. And I asked him, I said, listen, I'm running out of luck here finding a safety guy, but I have to get one in place before we put our numbers together for this major construction project.
Gotcha.
And he said, well, John, he's a safety guy. And then I remembered, but I wasn't keen on the fact, and I'll tell you why. But when I first met John, I think it was at a restaurant.
Right.
He knew some folks that I knew, and I didn't get a good vibe from the guy. And, I've hired thousands of people in my life, met I don't know how many. So I size people up pretty quick when I meet them.
Understood.
And it was just awkward. I'm not saying he was a bad guy or anything like that, but he was awkward.
Okay.
And to the point where I asked a couple of the guys, I said, because I had understood that he went to prison at 19 and did a lot of time in there. I said, did prison screw him up? I mean, did it, because he was just kind of weird,
Gotcha.
Anyway, so Pat had mentioned, maybe talk to John. I know he could use the money.
Right.
I said, okay, that's fine. I'll talk to him. I wasn't hyped, I wasn't looking forward to it, but I needed somebody. So I went to John and I offered him $75,000 a year. Okay. The previous two people I was talking to, one of them wanted 160 and one of them wanted, I think, 225 or something.
Yeah. So a vast difference, and also it fits into your budget as well.
Gotcha. Right. And in that, I think we were at a restaurant. I think we were sitting at a table, and he starts to pull out all of his safety certification cards. He must have had 20 of them.
Gotcha.
For all these different things. And I said, well, a lot of that doesn't apply. I said, but, and he mentions in this video that when I first, quote unquote, came to him, that we had a conversation that I told him I would pay for any of his certification renewals. Well, that's not true because, we bury fiber optic lines or run them pole to pole. I don't need asbestos removal certifications. I don't need concrete.
A lot of them are irrelevant. They don't even play into what you need. Right. Gotcha.
Right. So I said, well, if the one piece of his video that is true, where he says that I said I would pay for renewals. Well, yes, I did say that for relevant documents, for relevant certifications.
Sure.
So,
which is normally how the employer-employee relationship works. Being a business owner, it has to do with what's related to the job or to the actual organization. Yeah. So,
right. Correct. And so we made him the $75,000 offer, and I was also aware that he was doing some safety work with a construction company in Manhattan. And this position, I didn't need the manager or director on site 5 days a week. So I told John, I said, but I'll need you to be out there at least 2 days a week until we, and then when we bring on people, I want you to bring on 2 people, then they can be out there 24/7. And, so he makes a claim in that video that it was a no-show job. I don't even know what the hell that is. Okay.
Yeah, that's the term. That's dopey term that they try to use. Yeah. That's their term to glamorize things that they try to use that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, it was to ask anyone that has worked for me, with me, beside me, all these years, that is the last thing I would offer to somebody. Right. So I expect a lot out of my people. It's a 24/7 grind in the telecommunications space.
Of course, yeah.
And so that's just blatantly false. And it's funny because there's employment paperwork, right? There's employment paperwork, there's documents and manuals and all emailed back and forth between everyone, our HR department and everything else. I mean, this is a professional organization.
Yes.
And so that was just categorically untrue. And so we get him onboarded. He does his drug screen and all of that. And in the construction space, it's not necessary to do a background check as it is in the residential space. If you're not customer facing or going to one of the provider's facilities or something like that, you don't have to do a background check, which was going to be another fit for me to help this guy out because, like I said, I knew that he had done some prison time.
Gotcha.
So we didn't run a background check like we do on our, what they call fulfillment guys, all the people that go inside your home to hook up the services,
Understood, yep.
Those guys get background checks every single year.
Right.
So anyway, we get him started, and right from Jump Street, he's not showing up. Nobody can ever find him.
Gotcha.
Calls are made, where's John, where's John, where's John? And we would have to call him, oh, I can't make it over there today, or oh, I can't do this today.
Right.
Okay. Well, fast forward, I think we brought him on. We won this contract in March of 2017. I think he actually started in April of 2017. So you fast forward to May, and I get a call. I was actually out in New York. I get a call from my vice president who handled our risk, leases, and insurance, our safety. He also handled our safety department. So John technically reported to him.
Gotcha.
And Brad calls me and says, Bill, I got this email, just another reason why this is hysterical. John emailed this. I got this email from John saying that we owe him $125 for an asbestos removal or something, safety certification.
Right.
I said, what? He turned in an expense report and all that. I said, absolutely not.
And just to be clear, that had nothing to do with the scope of his employment. That
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. I mean, there's no asbestos on telephone poles.
Right.
You know, so, and there better not be any buried in the ground either.
Right.
But so, you know, they had nothing to do with anything.
Gotcha.
So I told Brad, I said, absolutely not. We're not doing that. And I said, I'll take care of it. So I forwarded the email actually over to Pat.
Okay.
Because, you know, he would want to know if a guy he brought on. So I sent it over to him and he says, absolutely not. He replies back to the email, absolutely not. That's crazy.
Right.
I said, well, I'm going to talk to him about this because this is not okay. You know?
And it's not what you agreed to prior also.
Right. So I guess Pat, being as upset as he was, beat me to the punch and had a conversation with John and said, absolutely not. Right. So, okay. So I think it was a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I'm in New York and I have a meeting at a restaurant that I'm supposed to go to about some potential new business in Florida. So I go to this restaurant and lo and behold, there's John sitting there having a drink. I know he said in that video, I'm drunk from sunup to sundown or something like along those lines. But
some kind of slanderous nonsense. Yeah.
I don't know how you do that and run a business with 1,200 people, but whatever.
Right.
He can say whatever he wants. So he's standing there and he starts pretty quick about, do you think that I need $125? And I said, well, John, I don't know. You sent it in. You sent the expense report in. So obviously you do.
Right.
And I said, that has nothing to do with what we're doing. Now, in that video, he makes a bunch of claims that he threatened me and threatened the project manager that I had out there. That's all nonsense. That did not happen. Gotcha. He was aggravated that I called him out on the $125, and he was aggravated that Pat had said something, and I think it hurt his pride a little bit.
Right.
And you know, but everything else that he stated, he said he was going to hit me or drag my friend behind a car and all of this stuff. That was never said.
Gotcha.
First off, I wouldn't let anybody talk to me like that. But secondly, it just didn't happen that way. Gotcha. I was getting rather aggravated with him. He was a little aggravated with me. That's fine. Well, Pat ended up coming up to the restaurant also, and I told him what happened, and him and John went outside to talk. John comes back in and apologizes to me.
Gotcha.
Says, I'm sorry, yada, yada, yada. I said, okay, all right, we'll let it go. Okay. So, you know, those first few minutes of that video, that is actually how I met him, what happened with all those pieces to everything. And he makes other assertions in there about I forget what his job was to go to contractors or something. I forget all of the wording, but it's just not true, you know. And he references Williams Telecom in that video. That was a company that I formed because I left Technology Solutions in July 1st of 2017, and I took John and some of my best people over to a new company because I brought that major construction contract with me.
Gotcha.
And we had a falling out at the board level over some stuff we weren't seeing eye to eye on, so I just exited the company. And so John did come over to that side of the house because I did need, again, I needed a safety guy.
Yep.
And he filled the mold.
Yeah,
so
I see.
We get into Williams Telecom, and he brings on, I tell him, you need to hire 2 people because I can't have no safety person on site, and you're just not able to be here enough.
Right.
You know, so he brings on 2 individuals. We hire these 2 people to and safety people. One of them is going to be in Long Island, I think, right around Bethpage. And then another one was going to be in another area we work in Jersey.
Gotcha.
We bring these people on, two friends of his. And they're out there every day, okay? And a couple weeks go by, and all of a sudden I get expense reports from these two individuals,
right,
for thousands of dollars in tolls. Okay.
Yep.
Now, you would have to be crossing a GW every day, all day, to add up to what these bills were.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so I looked at them and I said, "What is this? I'm not paying this."
Right.
And to his credit, I will say that he did go talk to those individuals and said, "Absolutely not." Now, it was later told to me by one of those individuals that there was a little deal in the works between John and those people. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Sure.
I'm just going off of what it was told to me.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the events. And I ended up closing down that company because we didn't get paid from the customer.
Gotcha.
So I had to close that company down, and I let everybody go, including John. And I think that's the last time I saw John. I think September of 2017. It might have been a few months after that. I'm not quite sure. It's been a few years ago, but
yep.
But yeah,
So basically, his episode was about 90% inaccurate based on what really took place. That's really the bottom line here, and he's putting your name on there, he's using your image, and he's now unfortunately impacting certain deals that you have based on his lies, if I understand correctly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And I'll tell you one other story just to put some context around who John is.
Sure.
So we were having a barbecue on a Sunday. A friend had a place out in Oakdale, and I happened to be in New York, and we were going to have a barbecue out there, go on the boat, go on a jet ski, just hang out for the day.
Gotcha.
And John was invited there. I don't recall who invited him, but somebody did, because it was going to be quite a group of people of us, and the wives and girlfriends or whatever.
Gotcha.
And John shows up with his, I think she was 6 years old at the time, his daughter.
Okay.
He had with him often. Well, there was no life jacket for the daughter.
Right.
So I had a few drinks, but the friend that was with me hadn't, and I said, "Rick, can you take John up to this marine store, and so he can get his daughter a life vest?"
Right.
So they get in the car, and I get a call about, 20 minutes later from Rick saying, "Bill, John doesn't have any money to get this life vest.
Gotcha.
It's $60." I said, "Okay, well, there's money in the console. Buy it for him."
Right.
So, because my friend had left his wallet, he was wearing swimming trunks,
Right.
But, I've seen these videos, and he's trashed a few friends of mine, and all over the internet, and I just.
Well, that's their theme, they'll trash everybody else, and they make themselves always look like the most powerful, the richest, everything,
exactly.
and everybody else is beneath them. That seems to be their playbook for the lying informant. That's what it seems to be.
Right, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, just say who you are and say what. If you're going to go down that road, just be honest.
Absolutely.
Well,
unfortunately, that's a problem that they all tend to share. They all tend to share the problem of telling the truth, and at every angle, they don't realize when you're a liar, there's going to be people who pick up on those lies. There's going to be people such as yourself who are directly involved and know it's a lie, and there's going to be another side to the story, and that's why I feel giving this platform and making people have the ability to say, no, that's not true, is so important, because all the public is hearing are these one-sided stories that paint these guys in the best of light. It's comical. It's absolutely comical.
Absolutely. I appreciate what you and the We Push Back community, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's
thank you.
Somebody has to get facts out,
And honestly, that's what it's about. You know, I let people know my opinion, but the truth is, I always say, don't go by my opinion. Just listen to the facts. Listen to the different sides. Right. Listen to who has receipts, who has backup, and then you decide who's lying. And anybody with half a brain, it's very easy to figure out who's lying.
Absolutely. And it's just, it's mind-numbing. And like I said, I probably wouldn't have even done this if it got on here and talked a little bit if it hadn't impacted me directly. Now it's impacted me directly, and I feel terrible. I mean, which you know all too well. You know, it's at some point enough's enough. Yeah. You know.
Yep. And it's funny, you know, that's exactly. I had a gentleman on my show last time. He's an attorney, Matthew Mary, and that's what we were saying. It's like, you know, when's enough? How long is it going to go on where they could just go on, tell stories, and then look, perfect example. Now you're working on a deal. Somebody starts looking into things. They start doing their due diligence, and now this nonsense comes up, this slander, this defamation, and now it's on us and it's on people who are affected to set the record straight. I just don't understand how that's allowed to play out that way.
I don't either. And I mean, in all business, but in my business in particular, reputation is everything. And
absolutely.
You know, I haven't had a problem for 23 years. I've operated all over the country and in a couple other countries. And to have this nonsense out there that isn't even true in the first place, it makes me sick, to be honest with you.
Yep, I agree, and that's why to me it's so important, you know, to be able to say these things, have them shared, so this way anybody doing their due diligence, now they don't get one side of the story. Now they're able to hear it directly from the person involved, and that's what's so vital. And like you, I've been in business a long time. I've built a very good reputation. Never had any of this. This whole segment, when you start seeing how people operate, you start seeing what these lying informants do, when you start seeing what their supporters try to do, it's really twisted. And it's very important to have our voice out there to say, okay, they could lie all they want, but here are the facts. Here are the facts of what took place. You know? Right.
And when you see these channels with 17,000 subscribers or 30,000 subscribers, I mean, I've been watching this over the many months, and it just, you know, you say to yourself, how can people actually be believing this?
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
It is surprising.
Yeah, it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
But yeah, I needed to get something out back at that. I mean, he's caused some trouble over the last couple of months for honest people. You know, a couple of my former subcontractors were visited. I mean, just things like that are just completely out of line, and it's based off of lies.
Yep.
And it's just
and that's their move, you know, just to make themselves look better. They'll throw anybody under the bus just to avoid their own self accountability. You know, and that's the bottom line. They want to avoid anything they may have done, so they want to say, oh, look at this guy, look at that guy, this guy. And meanwhile, you're dealing with legitimate people trying to work, trying to get contracts, trying to just feed their family, and now they got to have this headache on top of it.
Right,
you know?
Right.
But I really, you know, you always have an open door, Bill, anything that you want to address, and this is for anybody who is impacted by these lying informants, my platform, the We Push Back members platform, they always have an open door. So I really appreciate you coming on and just getting your facts out there.
I appreciate it, Dominic. Thank you for the time.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
All right, we'll talk.
Take care. And there you have it, folks. Another lie debunked by another lying informant. So there you have the individual who is the topic of that episode I mentioned earlier. And you could go listen to that episode. I gave you the title of it at the beginning. I forgot it right now. But at the beginning, I gave you the title and the date. And there's really not much more to say. I thank Mr. Fenton for coming on. And anybody out there who needs to have a voice, who is impacted by these lying informants, touch base with myself, touch base with any We Push Back member, and we'd be glad to provide that for you. Thank you. Till next time.
You've been listening to the Justice Tech Pros podcast with Dominick Crea, one of the most unique podcasts on the internet, discussing the obstacles the defense team faces when trying a case, what goes on behind the scenes during pretrial and motion phase, holding defense attorneys accountable, making sure they're fighting for their clients, the difference between textbook law and how things truly play out in a courtroom, and everything in between. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show, and we'll be back soon. Until then, find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Justice Tech Pros. To email the show with questions and comments, it's podcast@justicetechpros.com. Till next time, this is Justice Tech Pros Podcast and Dominick Crea signing off.